get started back again. We're in Junction City. I'd like to hear a little bit about Memphis. Hattie was born, don't you know, there? And we had we must have had a good town, and everybody, all I've ever heard, Memphis has been a good town for us. Why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Well, for one thing, you know when she was born, on December the 7th, 1906. Just think, that was Pearl Harbor Day now.
And I was pretty near 7 at that time. Well, we lived in a big frame house. It was a big double house with a veranda all the way around. And Lucille and I would have roller skates, and we'd skate up and down around the house on the veranda. And there was one tenant by the name of Johnson, and we'd sing Rufus, Raffus, Johnson, and Brown, what are you going to do when the rent comes around? And we'd skate around and sing this song. Well, and then one of our neighbors moved out, and
do you remember that terrible spell?
Yeah.
What was it?
Garbage. Somebody had moved out and left a bunch of garbage in the, where was it? In the
bathroom, honey.
The bathroom. Oh, boy.
We had a bathroom there, a tub and stool and everything else. We had bathroom there.
Oh, I'm sure we did.
And they just filled the tub up. Now, go ahead, and you know who got it out.
Yeah. Who got it out?
Well, Papa had to dig it out and clean out the house. And we used to go to the park. There was a squirrel park. And
where was it?
Down in the center town someplace. And
Papa used to take you down there, didn't he?
Yeah, Papa would take us down there. We'd have picnics. Papa was always real good about taking us out. And when he did, why, he'd always manage to make us a swing or a teeter-totter, something or other.
You remember the time, Edith, we were coming home, it wasn't dark yet, and a Negro stopped right in front of the car, and the streetcar, you know, and the motorman just took that long thing that he shifted the rails with and clopped him over the head, and we went on about our business. You remember?
Yes, in those days, they were really cruel to the colored people. And
is that where they had the people living at the back of the houses on the alleyway, and the black people lived back there, and you called them in to help you?
It's real convenient. We could get out there in the backyard and call some of those colored ladies up, and they would be glad to come and help us out with the work or cooking, whatever there happened to be. Lucille was telling about how they used to stand out in the yard and in the pool of cold water and do the ironing. Of course, we heated the irons on the stove in those days, and somebody would bring her the irons, and she'd stand here in the cold water to keep herself cool while she ironed.
Get in the mud, I suppose.
Well, why don't you shut up now?
That was our family, and I'd like to know a little bit about it. What kind of a house did you live in? What kind of work did Papa do? And Hattie was born there. Could you tell me just a little bit about it? What was the big house?
What do you remember, Edith?
Well, it was a large double house. We just lived in half of it. And with a veranda all around. Of course, in Tennessee, that's rather one of the southern states. Oh, yeah, on Penrose Street, in St. Louis. We were living there. Next door to us was a German family, and at the end of our block there was it went down into a hill, and in the wintertime all the kids brought their sleds there, and it was this wonderful place to slide down. Papa had made us a sled about 4 feet long with runners made out of gas pipes. It was a little bit heavy, but then it carried several of us, and it was a lot of fun. And so that was our main winter sport. Well, one day I came home from school, And Maisie, the girl next door that was my age, she called me a name and spit in my face. Well, she had no reason to do this and made me feel awful bad. But I didn't fight with her because I wasn't in the habit of fighting. I guess I believed in peace at any price. Anyway, I went in and told Mama and felt pretty bad about it. So that night when Papa came home from work, either I or somebody else told Papa. Well, he had been kind of discouraged with me being not taking my own part and being rather shy, and so I guess he thought this was a crisis. So he said, Edith, if you don't slap Maisie or get even in some way, he said, I'm going to whip you tomorrow night when I come home from work. Well, I had all that night and all the next day to think about this, and I certainly didn't want to get a whipping. And so I thought about it and tried to bolster up my courage. And after school the next day, why, there was Maisie out on the fence. And so I didn't say anything. I just doubled up my fist, and I went up to Maisie, and I just hauled off, and I really gave her a good one. Well, of course, she went in crying to her mother. So she went in crying to her mother, and so of course Maisie's mother came over and talked to Mama, and said, well, Edith just hauled off and they hit Maisie, and Maisie didn't do a thing to her. Mama said, well, she spit in Edith's face yesterday. And her father was pretty mad about it. And he told her that if she didn't smack Maisie or get some way, get even with her for doing this, why, he was going to whip her when he came home. So that's what happened. She didn't want her daddy to spank her. So she said, I'm sorry if you don't like it, but that's the way it is. She spit in Edith's face first. And
then you didn't get a whipping from Papa.
So I didn't get a whipping from Papa, and he felt better, and I felt better. And
you slept that night, huh?
Yeah, Maisie learned a lesson.
Oh, that's a good story, Edith.
Is she through? Ever got more?
True story.
One, got more? 5 cents or 50 cents was the day's work.
Not anything like what they're paid now, but then they were paid, and they were happy with it.
Oh, do you remember the woman that Mama used to call? Her name was Jenny, and she'd call her over on the day that it was time to iron, and Jenny always took a place that was kind of low in the backyard and stand in muddy water. She'd pour water in there, and that kept her feet cool, and then every time she needed an iron, she'd yell. And somebody'd bring a hot iron. So these irons were all heated on our, it was on the fireplace in Memphis. There was a place that was fixed for it. And we'd bring her a hot iron, she'd go on the ironing, and she would sing the church songs, those gospel songs, you know. Don't you remember how she'd stand there in the mud, and the mud would come up between her toes?
I don't remember that.
You don't? I'll never forget it.
I remember her making biscuits and things like that.
She was good. Now, when we went back to St. Louis, Winston was born July the 10th, 1908, in St. Louis, and we were living on Oregon. And you remember, Edith, that great big stable of those fancy horses were there north of our house. There wasn't any smell nor odor. I don't know how they kept it down, but they were the most beautiful horses. And we had a great big backyard with those 3 hammocks in it. There was one made of barrel staves and one made of the chicken wire, and the other one was this string knotted together. And that was the place where we both said, well, I don't care. It's Lucille's turn to wash dishes. And I said, no, it's Edith's turn to wash dishes. And Papa says, if I hear either one of you say, I don't care, again, you're going upstairs and go to bed. We both came up with, I don't care. It's Lucille's turn or Edith's turn. So Papa took us both upstairs and gave us a paddling. we were laying up there, crying our hearts out because we were so disgraced. Because Papa had spanked us on our bare bottoms. Don't you remember?
I know. It was very rarely that Papa ever laid a hand to us.
I can't remember any other time but that. And then it was such a nice time here across the alleyway that our neighbors' chickens were being stolen. And we called Papa real quick and told him. And Papa went over with his revolver, and Mama took a poker, and you know what a poker is. You stir up the fire in the stove, and they may not know, though. But anyway, we walked on up there to we watched Mama and Papa walk up there to the chickens and to the people's house, and they called the police, and they caught them. Don't you remember? Then everything was all right. You remember? Sure.
I don't remember that so well. I remember Penrose Street.
Yes, I guess so.
But how far back they had telephones? Now let's see. Did you have a telephone in Memphis?
So far we have not had a telephone, but some neighbor always seemed to have one.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
did we go to Penrose from there?
We went to Penrose from
was that the place where they had the fire and they let the horses out?
No, that was on Oregon.
Okay. Well, I meant on Oregon where they had, before you went to Penrose.
Yeah. But then, Penrose was such a nice place up there. We were only a block from Newstead, and that's where Winston was born, Winston was born there in 1908 in St. Louis, up there on Penrose. And that was just a block from Newstead. And there was a little church down there starting, and of course we always went to the closest church. We never went any further than that. If it was so it wasn't Catholic church, that was all. But then I sang at the Catholic church as a child in the child's choir. But one day, Mama said, Lucille, Dr. Magoon's going to be down there at the corner of by the grocery store. He's going to get off the streetcar there, and he's going to come on up. Now you go down and show him where we live. So I went down to see where he was, and he came off the streetcar, and he was so nice. And he always carried, the doctors used to always carry those black bags.
Well, that's where babies came from.
Well, definitely. And I wanted to carry the bag, and he says, oh, no, you mustn't do that, Lucille. I've got to carry the bag because we've got a baby in there for your mama. Oh, I was so happy. So we came on home.
Did you realize she was going to have a baby?
No, I didn't know she was going to have a baby. How could you tell? And so anyway, she came on home. I came on home with Dr. Magoon, and he was such a nice fella. And Winston was born. Well, then we had another baby. And we had a real good time there. And then we got ready to go to Kirksville. Now, Kirksville, they were having quite a time in Kirksville, making shoes for the Army. And they were having to convert a lot of machinery to the heavy shoes instead of just ladies' wear. And so Papa was sent there. He was given the position by the United Shoe Machinery Company, and he was to investigate their machinery and everything. So we went to Kirksville, Missouri. And when we got up there, everything was so nice, and one of Papa's cousins came to see us, and then he went into the plumbing business. Well, we were there just a year when we built a home on Michigan. And Uncle Gay did all the plumbing, and we had steam heat, and he did all that plumbing, and then he came to live with us. He had a room that he fixed all upstairs there. It was this was a lovely home, truly.
It's the one we visited, wasn't it, Edith?
Mm-hmm.
Back in 1972? No, 75.
Was it 75? Well, I was at the hospital.
No, you're right. It was the year before. See, last year we were in the hospital, Lucille, and then it was the year before.
No, it was that one before that I wasn't.
And it took a lot of hunting because we didn't know the exact address and exactly how the house would be.
Yeah, that's right.
But we did hunt around quite a bit.
And you remembered so many things.
Did you think it was a nice home when you looked at it then?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
But
It
very
was
nice.
well
In fact,
cared.
it was improved some, and it had been kept up beautifully.
And the factory? We found the factory.
We found the little church where we went to.
We went down into the church.
Lucille and I used to sing duets there.
Sure we did.
And
Oh, yes, and you remember at Christmas time you got a Christmas gift? Oh, what was the boy's name? Oh, that's too bad you forget.
I would have remembered any other time, but I was a very shy person. Well, he was a friend